Why, when we're given the heart of a lion, do we sometimes act like mice?
Good question.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
That's the thing, boys, right? Good morning, Lisa.
Morning,
Good to see
Lisa.
you here. Good to, California in the house. We got West Coast in the house. What's that? But so here's the thing, guys. So I was rereading Motivation Manifesto by Brennan Burchard last night. One of my ultimate favorite books, one of the first books. I'm huge on getting authors to sign things. And this was the first book I actually read. I was like, oh my God, and sent it back to the author with all of my notes, all of my highlights to get him to sign it. And then it's one of those things where you send it back, right? And it's funny because as I was sending it, I'm like, I don't know, is he going to sign? Oh, I don't know, why would he sign it? And then I go back to the beginning of the book and he says, why, when being given the heart of a lion, do we sometimes act like mice? And I said, fuck it, I'm sending it. And so I sent it, and he sent it back with this like awesome, like, thanks, Dan. You know, my God, your highlights are awesome. And I read all your stories because I staple stories to my books. Like, I'll get it for you in a second. But so I thought, what a better way to start to close out the week before wins and lessons tomorrow with the idea of why. Yeah. Why is, and I'll ask you guys this question because I really love both of your answers. Why, as a salesperson, are we sometimes afraid to ask that question? Sometimes afraid to say, you ready to go? Let's do it. Sometimes afraid to ask the hard questions. So, big one, afraid to raise rates, right? Like we have all of these fears. And where do they lead? They're what ifs. What if they say no? What if they fucking say no?
What if they say yes? What if they say yes? What about that?
What happens if they don't answer you?
Yeah. So what do you guys? Tell me what you guys give me your guys' thoughts on the whole idea. Like, have you been there? Obviously, I think we've all been there. Scared. I know I have. Like, what did you do to get over it? What kind of? You share some stories.
Oh, brother, go ahead, DJ. You.
So I will tell you. I am so excited that we are talking about this. I am a kid of fear. The fear of the unknown and a kid of fear. I mean, I was so afraid of authority and asking for permission of things, of them saying no, that I used to, and full disclosure, I'll share this on here. As a kid, kindergarten, first grade, I would go to the bathroom almost regularly in my pants because I was afraid and I couldn't control it. But when they said we had to go, and I couldn't make myself. But when I had to go, it just happens. And so instead of, because she was so, I'll never forget, it was a lady. I don't remember the teacher herself, but I mean, my parents actually switched schools. So I know fear and what this can do to us of paralyzing fear.
Yeah, it is paralyzing.
What is going to happen? What could happen? We build up all these ideas, and I had so many ideas. I was going to get screamed at. I'm going to get yelled at. I'm going to this or that. And it's nothing. It's nothing until we just do it. And probably we bought a zoo, one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And he talks about 5 seconds of courage. He said he's seen his wife, and anybody who hasn't seen the movie, amazing movie, Benjamin Mee, walking past the diner, sees his wife in the window, says, oh my God, he stops. And again, this is the way he explains the story. He sees his wife, says, I have to say something. How can I say something? So he stops, goes back through the door, walks up to her, and he said 5 seconds. He said his brother taught him all it takes is 5 seconds of courage, and it could change. And so that was one thing that really for me is, okay, when I start to feel that old me, that little kid me of, oh God, here it is, like I'm scared. And in my mind, I'm building up all these things. Oh, what if I do this? Oh no, what if I? And I was like, no, 5 seconds. 5 seconds. I got to do this. I just do it.
You actually say that to yourself right now, DJ?
Oh, I still say that. I still say that now. I say that every day. If I'm thinking something and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm building up all these scenarios. But what if this happens? Oh no, but what if that? But what if they hate me? But what if they think I'm crazy? But what if? And then it's like, no, why does this thing keep doing this to me? And it's 5 seconds. Give myself 5 seconds. Just do it. And then worst case, they know, they laugh. You're gonna die. And that's the biggest thing. To me, I feel like fear of the unknown leads to this thought, at least for me, of death. It's the worst. We're gonna die. But we're not gonna die.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Jeff, what's your thoughts, brother?
Well, man, oh boy, where do I start? I think the real question is, why are you scared? Number one, I mean, if you've been in the business a long time, or even entering it, you kind of have an idea of what the role is and what you need to do, so forth and so on, right? So when I started, if I wasn't a pain in the ass the way that I was and asked those critical questions, I don't think I would be where I am today, because I wouldn't have learned a damn thing, number one. So I think the fear comes, especially when you have that revenue that's coming in. And I'm going through this, I swear to God, like right now, I just spoke to my partner this morning. I got a very, very large account. Several $1 million account. And now I have to get back to this guy and talk to him. And I have to be careful how I'm going to put this together, because I don't want to lose the account. But it's something that needs to be said. So I'm going to rely on my value, my experience about operation and TMS and YMS and operations and stuff like that, because there's so many things that are going wrong that sometimes you get pushed into a position that you have no other choice but to ask those questions that you.
Oh, I think Jeff froze. Yep. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think he's freezing.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened. But so the thing is not to be scared about it, but think before you ask those questions. And whether you're putting it into an email or calling, think about what needs to be said. But just think about the repercussions if you don't ask those questions, right? So that's fear in and of itself. Well, if I don't ask this, what's going to happen there? So what DJ was saying about the what if scenarios, I always look at the what if scenarios, because that's how you create things, good things. So if he asks me this or she asks me that, how am I going to answer that? And you play that role out before that happens, and you say, well, is that a good question to ask, or should I not ask that question? So it really all depends. But my personal beliefs is, don't be scared to ask. Do not, because you're also the point ask, you're going to be in that same position. If you don't ask, you're always going to be in that position where you can't excel or move forward. You're going to be stuck there. So you're
actually going to be in a deficit, Jeff.
You are.
Like, like if you look at it and you say to yourself, if I ask this question, it might put me in jeopardy of answering it the wrong way or them coming back. So I'll just avoid it. And then 2 months down the road or a month down the road, that question comes out. And then when that question comes out, it's almost as if, why wouldn't you have said this at the beginning? Like for example, do you have EDI capabilities? Well, part of the project is EDI capabilities. If you don't have EDI, you're going to kind of skirt that question and you're going to talk about the other things. EDI is going to come out. So step in front of it, have the heart of a lion, and step in front of the question and get ahead of it. And you brought up a valid point, and it's a point that I've said so many times. There's one thing to ask questions, and there's one thing to say, hey honey, do you want pizza tonight or do you want sushi tonight? Right? No real loss. But when you say, hey, Mr. Customer, I need to get 10% more, and your mortgage, your livelihood, your new vehicles, all these things count on the account, it's a whole other fear that comes in.
It is.
What if? if I, you're just talking, what if I lose the multi-million-dollar account? I need the account. What if I lose it? Now you have a financial fear that's compounding. And this is where I really started to say to people a long time ago, 10%. No customer should be more than 10 to 15% of your business, because you put yourself into that financial fear. Anything over that. We talk about the fuel all the time at 25%, right? And it's true. Like, even in sales, for us as salespeople, there's a point where customers own us. And no matter who you are, I don't care who you are, if your customer has 60 to 70, 50, 60, 40% of your business, they own you. You can try and play it any which way you want. You're fooling yourself, because if that customer leaves, you're up shit's creek without a paddle.
Oh yeah, but you know what?
You are the one that's responsible to change that, and do everything in your power to change that, because that's where. And if the customer knows it, some customers will play on that shit like it's gold.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But here's my rebuttal. Here's my rebuttal to that. Go. Okay. What I was taught a long time ago, the best seat to have in the house on the sales side is the seat at the board table of the customer that you are doing business with. Because if you ingrain yourself into that company and you're a big fixture of what is going on internally in that, it's more of a loss to them than to you. And if you, all right, so if you're there and they rely heavily on you, and you put yourself in that position, you can ask any of those questions, because they're going to rely on your experience. They know, all the lanes, all the people, everything about that. It becomes a lot easier inside. So that's why, my partner and myself, when we go after a customer and we get in there, we want to ingrain ourselves in that company. We want to know
You're
more.
Looking to be the resource, Jeff.
Absolutely.
You're the one that wants to be the resource to the customer, so the customer knows you're a partner. And typically when you're a partner,
that's it.
A lot of these questions are no longer fear questions. It's a conversation, right? You go down, you sit down with a glass of wine at lunch, and you say, listen, here's the reality. This is where we're at. We could use 15%, 10% would work, and it's usually go do it. Right? But that's an ingrainment. That's
absolutely
a real resource situation. That's a partnership, and that happens over time, over proving yourself.
Yes.
Where I find a lot of these fears come in is right at the beginning, right? Like when you first start doing this, first 2 years, right? Where you're really developing that overall belief from the customer side that I can trust Jeff, like with my firstborn, and I know he'll always look after me, because there's that growth, there's that incubation period, right?
Right. You have to get to that point where you can agree to disagree, and that is the biggest part of any collaboration, any kind of relationship that you have with anybody. It's that respect. You respect is not given, it's earned. And you have to provide that value to your prospect, your client. They have to realize that value, but they're not going to know it unless you share it and you get involved in everything. You ask those pertinent questions. So don't be fearful about asking those questions, because that's going to benefit you. As long as you have that game plan and you know what you're talking about, don't hesitate. Hesitation kills relationships. Go and say what needs to be said.
Well, the world is filled with squirrels that couldn't make a decision on the road. The roads are filled with squirrels that couldn't make a decision, right? And Bobby taught me that one, and it's true. It's that, like, I look at it like this, and I say, regardless of where I am in my sales cycle, if something falls apart, it was meant to fall apart, right? Like, as I believe wholeheartedly, as a sales rep, we can't look at volumes, we can't look at profitability, we can't look at any of it as the determining factor as, do I want to do business with this customer long term? Because we're using things that fluctuate, and in the end, we don't deal day to day with profitability. We deal with people, right? Like, you and I have a conversation with us. We are who we deal with. You could be the greatest guy on the planet, and you might be a dick in business. You could be a dick normally, and you could be you could be a dick normally, but like a really good guy in business. Like everybody has these variations of who they are as a person and who they are as a business person.
Yes.
Right. There's times I try and be status quo across the board. Well, I know this morning I had a phone call and I had enough. And I was like, I'm done. And I became a jerk. And I regret becoming a jerk, but I did. And I allowed my emotions and my passion to overtake who I am. But we all do it. Now, it's an anomaly because I'm not typically like that.
Right.
But I excused myself from the situation because I felt my temperature boiling.
Right.
So I excused myself because I said, you know what, I don't want to go down this road. I believe in positivity. I believe in everybody works, and nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to screw this person over. I don't believe people do that. Maybe some people do, but I don't. I tend to believe everybody in my world, in my inner circle, doesn't do that. And sometimes the questions that are asked, here's another point. Sometimes we ask a question, we don't really want the answer.
No. True.
And I often told my kids as we were growing up, I would say, listen, don't ask the question unless you're ready for every answer, like whatever it is, right? Like sometimes there's a situation that happens and they're like, hey, what do you think of this? And they want you to kind of lean one way and you're like, well, I think this way. And they're like, damn, that's not really what I wanted to hear. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's that I believe anyways, never ask any question unless you're ready for any answer and you're ready to take it, and then just absorb it and say, okay, all right, let's mull that over. Does it work for me? Does it not? Like, where are we at? And move forward. And I think that's productive Q&A.
Very, very. Absolutely. Sometimes you're here and they're here. You have to get to that right there in that center part where you have that, what did you say before? Congruency. You see eye to eye and you understand each other and how each other works. And that's how real partnerships are created. There's a lot of service providers out there. We talk about value and everything, but there's a lot of service providers that just care about the freight and moving the freight. But then there's those that separate themselves and differentiate themselves from other people by offering other values, So think deeply about what those values are and have those deep conversations with your customers and get yourself ingrained into their operation, because it's just going to bring you more. It's going to bring you more work without you even asking for it, because they know that you're part of the team there. And it's not easy to do so, without asking those questions.
I'll share a story with you that I think brings it home. So we're in the middle of launching a new company, and in the process, I wanted X amount of investors in the company, and I told a friend of mine about it, and she's very high up in this venture capital world, in the VC world, and she told one of her investor friends, and he's like, I'm in, get me a meeting with him. And I took the meeting. And in the end, I don't know why I took the meeting. I think I took the meeting because the $1 million number was thrown out. And I just wanted to have a meeting. I've never been in a VC meeting where somebody's giving you $1 million. And I'm talking to this person. And within 5 minutes of me explaining the product and everything, he's like, I'm in. He goes, I'll cut you a check for $1 million today. And I kind of stopped and I went, okay, so what does that entail? And normally somebody would have said, yeah, I'm in. But I'm like, no. I want to know what, in the end, I owe you now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he says, well, I want you to sell it within 3 years. And then I said, no. He said, well, that's the way this works. I said, no, that's the way you work. It's not the way I work. And Jeff, don't get me wrong. Could I use $1 million? Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Like, of course I could. But it didn't match the congruency of what I wanted, the vision I had for the company.
Right. Where's the hook?
Well, and that's the thing. And how many salespeople, if a customer is offering a $10 million account that's going to give them $1 million GP, how many salespeople would ask, what's the hook? Like, I don't know. I don't know that answer. I can tell you early in my career, I wouldn't care what the hook was. I'd take it because I wanted the money. Later in my career, I would be all over what the hook was because I wouldn't want to be like ground to this person, right? Like I've seen too many things in our industry that really screw salespeople up for life and hate the industry. But I told this VC guy, thanks very much, but I'm good. And I never looked back. And that's not ego, that's nothing. I have partners now that are the best people on the planet. And I know because of them and because of our congruency and because of our minds all focused on the singular mission, this is going to be the biggest thing that's ever hit our market. And I could say that with full confidence, like dead square in the eye, and know it. And if I would have taken that VC money, I don't think I could say that, brother. I don't think I could.
So how did you feel? How did you feel like walking away from that offer? I mean,
fucked up. Like,
right?
Full transparency, brother. I was like, I when I said no, it felt really good. And then I hung up the phone.
And then your mind starts moving.
And I went, I could have had 7 zeros in my bank account. Like, I stopped and I was like, okay, Dan, you have to trust your gut. And this is where I trusted my gut, because they give you $1 million, they own you, right? Like, sure, I could have maybe, we could have launched, we could have done whatever, taken $1 million, paid them back their, 10% or whatever it is, 20% that they wanted on $1 million after 2 years and been done with it. But it's that 2 years of everything has to go through them. Like, you want this feature, you want this, they have to sign off on it. What if they don't see the vision? What if the vision stops aligning?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as a salesperson, and this is a big thing why I say to salespeople, design your career, design your life. Because what if your design doesn't meet that customer's design? You need to go with your design, because your design is what matters. You have the heart of a lion. Don't act like a mouse.
Yeah.
Go with their design. And I think that's, for Personal Development Thursday, I think that's the message. Is how are you designing your life and your career? Because you are the one that does this day in, day out. Like, think about this for a second, okay? Just any customer you have.
Mm-hmm.
They could literally replace you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Good, bad, and different. Yes, possibly, if you're really ingrained like you are. Will it be a headache? Yes. But can it be done? 100%.
There's no reason.
They can do that at the drop of a dime. You can't replace that customer at the drop of a dime, because you have to build that relationship, solidify, go through your sales sequence.
How much does that cost?
Exactly. So in the end, if you're not congruent with the customer, and the customer has this I got you attitude, and trust me, I've had customers that were so congruent, and then they leave and somebody new comes in and says, okay, so let's go over the business. What do we have? I said, well, we're doing $6 million in business. We're doing, 3,000 loads here. We're doing this here. And they're like, man, we give you a lot of business. I'm like, yeah, you give me quite a bit of business. I'm like, okay, what are you doing for us? This is literally in the first friggin' conversation with the person. I'm like, pardon? Yeah. What are you doing for us? I said, I actually do quite a bit for you. Way more than anyone will ever do for you. But I'm curious to see, what are you thinking is a lot? Because you're sitting here saying to me, the business we have is a lot. We do $15 million a year, and you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has a $700 million transportation budget. So what is a lot? And I looked at him right in the friggin' eye. I said, so you tell me what is a lot. He goes, well, when you put it that way, I guess we don't really do that much. I go, no, we don't. And call me an ass, whatever. I mean, I remember my business partner sitting with me, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that to them. And I'm like, but what's the alternative?
Right.
The person's not controlling me. I'm giving them, I help them save $1.8 million a year in demerge. I'm adding value to what they have. I've rearranged their entire shipping department to become 30% leaner on freight costs. I've added value. Don't come in and try and strong arm me. And I know that sounds egotistical the way I'm speaking, but it's the way my brain worked, and then it comes out in a much more eloquent and professional way. But you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, exactly. Let's go to the data. Let's look at the benchmarks. right? I'm gonna remove my emotions totally out of this, right? My favorite saying I love telling everybody, Dan, is I believe in God. Everybody else brings data. Why? Why do I say that? Is because people bring emotions to the table and they
Hold on,
let
say
their
that again,
emotions
Jeff. Say that
fly.
again.
Which part?
I believe in God. Everybody else needs to bring data.
Yeah, everybody else brings data
I love that.
because the thing is that, like I said, people sometimes drive businesses forward from an emotional aspect, not from a data-driven aspect. So when you have those conversations with people, take that, just eliminate the emotions out of the conversation. It has no bearing whatsoever at all. Okay, it's not an emotional decision; it's a data-driven decision, and that data metrics is provided and created at the beginning of any relationships because you want to have a starting point and then you want to have a quarter, half, and full year, right? On your QBRs. And you look at them. And so when you have those QBRs and you're sitting down with your customer, you're like, okay, here's where we were at the beginning of a relationship. Here's where we are now. I saved you, like you said, $1.8 million on demerge, tension, whatever. Where would you be if you didn't use me, right? I know this, I know that. Okay, let's set another benchmark for the next quarter business review, and you keep on moving it forward. So never, ever, people, please don't make decisions on emotional. Take the emotions out, man. Take it, remove it.
I've
Let that
often heard people say never make a decision in a valley.
No. I mean, the takeaway from this, Dan, and it's from what you said, and I think everybody should be able to do this, is know when to say no.
Yes.
Be able to walk away from a bad decision. Listen, become a great listener, understand and absorb what's being said. Does it fit into your box or is it out here? Is it what you want to do? Like you said, Dan, perfectly. Is it all about the revenue and making that a lot of money? But what does that involve in managing that? How much time is it going to take you from really concentrating on the customers that you should be paying more attention to? I mean, you have to be able to say that. So when it has a heart of a lion and mind of a mouse, get rid of the mice, man. Get rid of it. All right. Listen to your gut. I know I said you take the emotions out of it, but seriously, if you hear what you absorb and you understand it, that should be enough to say, nah, this isn't the direction I want to go in.
It's interesting you say something when you said pull emotions out of it, because when you look at it, right, you look at some of the best business people on the planet, they don't do things emotionally. They look at the data, they look at the facts, and they make a decision. And some people actually call that crude business people. Now, don't get me wrong, there are crude business people, but I think a lot of people that do not operate under emotion get considered to be, or the perspective is that they're crude, but they're not. They're operating with the heart of a lion because they're looking at it and they're saying, okay. And in their head, like methodically, they're going, are we congruent? Do we match? Will we get along? And I think the best business people on the planet look at the person they're dealing with, not the logo.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. It's like have empathy, have empathy with them, but don't let that drive the force, drive the business forward. I mean, it has no relevance, say I commiserate with what you're saying, but this is what the data say. Look at the numbers. This is it. All right. I feel what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But if you want to do something correctly, here's what you need to look at, That's what it's all about, my friend.
I love that.
All about.
I love that. Good one, my friend. I think hopefully we've hit it home for y'all out there, and the ability to live like a lion. Congruency.
Yes.
Make sure that you're congruent with the people you work with, and if you're not, get out. And I'll go so far as to say the same thing with the company you work with. Just be congruent. we'll see you guys tomorrow on Wins and Lessons. Looking forward to tomorrow, my friend.
Yes.
I don't know where DJ went. We don't have our quote for today. So here's my quote for today: be bold, fierce, and unrelenting in chasing your dreams. All right, there we go. That goes right along with stop living like when we have the heart of a lion. Stop living like a mouse.
That's it.
Done.
Until tomorrow, friends.
In trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion